I am with TE Connectivity. TE Connectivity is a global industrial technology leader, and we are creating a safer, sustainable, productive, and connected future. You will find most of our connectivity solutions product as well as sensing products in almost all the industries that touch our lives. Let's go to the next slide. Thank you. What we see here is what TE describes as a set or strategic execution and talent model. Post-pandemic, I believe all finance leaders across organizations, we need to think about how can we build and sustain synergies across our FP&A teams, and what competencies do we need, and which ones will be relevant for the future. So within our company, TE Connectivity, we use this framework, which we call Sdt Framework, in making sure that, one, we have clear standards, competencies, and expectations for our leaders. And number two, we really have a standardized way when we go through a selection, elevation, or promotion, and when we develop our leaders. FP&A leaders, as well as FP&A teams, are no exception to this model. So let's quickly look at each of the individual set components. I'm going to walk you through this. So let's talk about strategy. Strategy is all about, do you understand your business? Do you understand your organization value creation model? Why does your organization exist? And where can you in FP&A add value? Strategy is about the ability to view the future and imagine what do we need to do today to be prepared for the future. If you remember, Carlos talked about a vision at Takeda, which I commented on, where strategic recommendation will form almost 60% of what we finance people at FP&A spend our time on. Execution. Execution is all about, can you deliver on the promises you make? This is about setting the right priorities as well as executing them in a very disciplined way. For FP&A, this could also be what Tanya touched upon early about data governance, having a single source of truth, as well as how can we translate data into the information that organizations can use to make the right decisions. Let's talk about talent. Talent is all about, can we build an engaged and high-performing organization, because finance and FP&A are a critical part of organizational success. Do you have the right combination of skill sets to address FP&A challenges? And some of those have been covered early. It's really around digital transformation, as well as how do we manage big data. We have so much data today. How do we make sure that we're able to manage and deliver useful information for decision making? And last but not least is really around, in the current pandemic situation, how do you keep your FP&A teams engaged in this hybrid working environment? In my next slide, what I'm going to talk about is really in which ways can we achieve synergies within FP&A through what we call a 3E development mode. I'm going to walk you through each of those components. But before I do that, I strongly believe that most of us, when we are asked about the development, when we think about development planning, we think it's all about training. It's not. It's not about training only. At TE Connectivity, we believe that 70% of your learning, or my learning, is through experience. And experience, it really means about the jobs we do every day. Are you part of special projects, or are you part of special assignments? Also, we have a rotation program in making sure that our FP&A leaders and teams have the right experience in getting their job done. This is 70% of what they do. 20% is what we call exposure. And exposure is really about, can we learn from others? Are we asking for feedback? Do we have coaching arrangements? Do we have mentoring programs? And last but not least, probably most of you will be surprised, is really only 10% is learning through trainings. I mean, one of those could be the program which we have today from FP&A board. That's a mixture of we're learning, we're getting exposed, we're learning from other organizations and organizational experience and journeys in making sure that we can become better in serving our organization. What I'm going to do next is really just to share with you a few examples. How did we at TE Connectivity apply this model to drive FP&A synergies? The first example is I strongly believe that we have developed a very successful 2-year finance graduate development program. This graduate program is really designed around the 3 E's. What we do is we will take a couple of graduates whom we call finance associates. They spend 2 years in our company before they offboard into their permanent roles. What we do is we make sure that these associates spend at least in 3 different roles, finance roles: FP&A, commercial finance, operations finance, as well as internal audit, just to mention a few. We make sure that they spend their time at least in 3 different business units: automotive, medical, and energy. Remember, I talked about, do you understand your organization value creation model? Do you understand your products, your customers? This helps our associates to be well-rounded around what our company does the best. And in pre-COVID times, what we used to do in making sure that these individuals would spend their time in 3 different locations or countries. The second example was really the challenge we face in a new norm or transformational, organizational transformation around managing big data. We said, hey, we need to create what we call analytics center of excellence. The important thing about ACOE was really to address the FP&A challenges that we have talked about recently. Number one is, how do we manage big data? And how do we make sure that we are part of the digital transformation? If you look at the 3E model from education point of view, we say that we need to rethink the way we hire the individuals into ACOE. We moved away from traditional finance education, MBA, or controlling background into people who are going to give us that data science and data scientists as well as data analysts. In some cases, we just hired mathematicians. These individuals, what they're offering is really that a different view compared to what traditional finance would deliver. Before I finish, I would like to ask you to, number one, embrace the SET model, like what we've done at TE. Make sure that you're competent in strategy, execution, and talent. And number two, leverage the 3E model when you design your team's IDPs, or what we call individual development plans. And last but not least, in the current hybrid working environment where some people are in office and some work from home, make sure that you keep your FP&A teams engaged through traditional one-on-ones where you and your direct reports will go into a call just to catch up. But also what is really important is what at TE Connectivity we call skip level. This is where you have one-on-ones on the direct reports of your direct reports. This helps you reach broader teams across your organization and keeping them engaged and making sure that you leverage the synergies I talked about. Thank you very much, and back to you, Hans.